Christian Hodas was able to impress in the Stuttgart Regional Championships with a top 4 finish with a very different take on Lost Zone box. The list in front of you is slightly adapted. I've changed up a little bit with the energy count, incorporating water energy to allow Greninja to be an attacking threat, because I feel like having a 1-prize Pokemon that can still uptrade and take 2 prizes in a turn is still valuable. But the general concept is going to be working in some really interesting type coverage attackers alongside the super effective glasses. Many people think this is a Mimi card where you're applying weakness to ×3 rather than ×2, so we can have some low damage output thresholds actually reaching into Pokemon when we are hitting for weakness. The 2 main users of these super effective glasses are going to be Tropius and Minior. Tropius with that grass type coverage, with the rally back option dealing 120, goes up to 360 when you have the glasses on, which is fantastic. And of course, even just the 120 turning into 240 is going to be relevant into Roaring Moon. So this is a really solid attacking option into Charizard and into Roaring Moon, which is huge. And then Minior is the other great user of the glasses. Sticking those on a Minior means you're able to knock out Iron Hands, which is massive. You hit 240 onto Iron Hands EX, so you will also have to Lost Vacuum away Bravery Charms in certain instances, but not always. And of course, this is also going to be a great option against Bravery Charmed Snorlaxes. So having 2 Lost Vacuum as well as 2 super effective glasses allows Gravitational Tackle to be a fantastic option at getting through Snorlax, because they don't really have a leg to stand on when we have Cram being able to get through Mimi, and we have Roaring Moon being able to get through Mimi, but also get through Rotom as well. So yeah, really, really solid core. That means we're going to be very strong into Lax, and we have this Minior response into Iron Hands, which is going to make our Miraidon matchup a bit safer. We do still have the option to go for Mirage Gate Roaring Moon if we really have to, but the Minior being a single prize option can skew that trade as well, which is pretty important for us. And it means that we don't need to hit that 7 threshold either. If we just happen upon the likes of Nest Ball, Minior gets itself into the active with its far-flying Meteor as well, so we can use as many flower selectings as possible to get over the line, exhaust all of our switching outs, knowing that Minior can yeet itself into the active spot as well. So really solid sort of card here. The key differences between my list and Christian's is that I'm incorporating those water energy, like I said. The energy count that they played was a 2nd copy of grass energy, and instead of jet energy, they played a gift. Gift is actually really solid on specifically Iron Hands. It can be solid onto other Pokemon as well if you multi-gate onto the likes of Roaring Moon, for example, or if you use Raihan, then turn attach gift energy. You can safeguard your board from hand disruption, which is obviously massive, but I think the jet energy just allows us to ramp to that 7 that little bit faster, and although it's obviously not as good as gift energy, it does allow you to see a lot of cards when you are being hand disrupted late game, if you are able to manually attach jets onto Comfeys and such as well, or end your turn attaching to that Iron Hands or onto the Roaring Moon or Moltres, those sorts of Pokemon. So I think Jet is still reasonable and kind of is close to the gift energy, which I never really found coming off in a lot of situations anyway. So I felt like just a more sensible Lost Zone card makes more sense here. Outside of the glasses users, we have the Dark-type Pokemon in Galarian Moltres V and Roaring Moon. Moltres can self-power up, which is really nice and has good synergy with Greninja. It is obviously going to be our Forest Seal Stone user, which is also partly why Town Store becomes like this great consistency card for us. It makes the Minior or Tropius play much more live, but it also allows us to have the Moltres Forest package, which we've seen in the past with lots of turbo engines that can help us ramp to 7 cards in the Lost Zone. It also just lets us find Colress, it lets us find Vacuum, those sorts of plays. So that's obviously very huge. Roaring Moon being, yes, a Dark-type Pokemon to help out against Mew and Gardevoir, but also Frenzied Gouging being an alternate option to Tropius to get through Charizard, another high hit point Pokemon as well, with that Frenzied Gouging option, which is great, and Calamity Storm dealing that 220. It's just that general bar good damage output Pokemon into other 2v2 prize matchups. And then, of course, we have the Iron Hands with the Amp You Very Much option. It's why we still play Lightning Energy in the deck. It's an expensive attacker, but we have the gates, we have a Raihan, we have Pal Pad in here to try and sort of supplement that. And it obviously boasts uptrade potential and is basically an insta-response card. Otherwise, you can run away with games at certain instances, so that's pretty cool. Other cards I'm definitely considering, something like a Roxanne or an Iono is pretty okay in this deck list. I haven't found the space for it just yet. It's been a card that's been very solid in the Lost Zone engines in the past. I'm not playing Sableye anymore, which was part of the reason why I'm not playing the Roxanne, because oftentimes you would go Roxanne, Sableye, and Engine Pokemon, so there's a bit less synergy here. It comes off a little bit less, but I do still think it's worth considering. The other card that I want to work into the deck list is Counter Catcher. It allows you in those late game spots to use your Colress, use your Raihan, and still find a way to Iron Hands or Roaring Moon and take multiple prizes in those end game stages, whereas Boss is pretty hard to come together, especially if your opponent is hand disrupting you, whereas the Counter Catcher can be much more easily weaved in. I'm going to be honest, the deck list is pretty chaotic and Lost Zone is really, really substantially different to what it's been in the past. Let me know your thoughts on this take. I'm also going to try and get some gameplay with Tord's deck list as well if my brain doesn't explode, because it seems like there's a lot going on. I don't claim to be the best player of this build. It's kind of my first time experimenting with it, but it's been a ton of fun. And I do think this combination of attackers gives you game into so many archetypes. So let me hear your thoughts down below and enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Town Store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code, OmniPoke. So, getting into game one, we're going to be going first. I honestly don't know if it's correct to go first or second with the deck, to be quite frank with you guys, because it feels like getting a Crampoke in isn't all that, but also just having extra outs to Colress to get VIP and all this other stuff can be quite good at times. So let me know your thoughts down below if you're better going second with this archetype, because it very much could be the case where you Colress and select once, and then can Colress and select twice over 2 turns, and then you unlock your gates for the real power spikes. It's a debate I've been having, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not all that proficient with this archetype, but getting into this first game, we did go first, and we're up against a Mew, and this is a fairly straightforward matchup where we have Moltres and we have Roaring Moon to offer some decent type coverages, so we should be able to sculpt a fairly easy prize map here. Our opponent's just put down Meloetta, so we can go for a 3-2-1 route and only have to KO 1 VMAX during the game. So, especially with this decent start, thanks to the Forest Hill Stone Moltres, we should be in pretty decent shape. The only stuff you need to watch out for is obviously Path of the Peak Judge or Path Iono or Roxanne. These sorts of things can slow us down, so we have to be a little bit conservative in that regard. That's the only thing that we need to be slightly aware of, as the opponent does actually go for a Judge Path early and pass things over to us. That's, I believe, our first gate in the Lost Zone, which is a bit awkward. And then we hit yet another awkward choice here of some of our other Colress and then a second gate. Because this Moltres is almost ready to rumble, I can get rid of another gate here, knowing that I really only need to make 1 Roaring Moon after this to sort of close out the game. So, I feel I can get away with this choice. We're going to Town Store just to unlock the Greninja. I can also just thin Super Effective Glasses here. And we can get 2 more cards. We do finally find Darkness Energy for our Moltres. I am going to weave in a Rope, and that might make life a little bit more awkward for us, as I roped earlier on in the turn, and our opponent gave us a Mew, and then roping again, they then gave us Meloetta. It was such a weird sequence, actually, where I thought they'd just feed us another Mew, basically stick with what they did on the previous turn, but they actually did the switch on us, and it's going to pay off for them here because I'm having to molt through a single prize Pokemon, which means I have to really rely on essentially using Moltres with Raihan now, or using both of my last 2 gates in deck on Moltres and on Roaring Moon specifically. I can't really waste those at all now, so it is going to be a challenging matchup just based on how our last few flower selectings went and how our Colress went, really. Having to get rid of a few key resources there, as our opponent kind of called our bluff on the first rope and then changed up their mind, which is really interesting, actually. I was thinking that at the time. The opponent is going to be able to VMAX here, and they're just going to knock out the Moltres. Obviously, I self-damaged, so they don't need any mods here. They can just pass things over to us. But we didn't see any hand disruption, so we should have a decent shot at reloading here. We have rods in hand. We actually do Colress into some Roaring Moon pieces, which is okay here. We're not really that close without the gates. Like I said, we're lowering our deck size quite nicely here, but there's no real guarantee that I'm going to be able to... Well, we do finally find gate, but I don't have it alongside Darkness Energy. So we're just going to keep cycling here as much as we possibly can. Vip for Vip can go. I'm also just going to throw away some more of these janky pieces, because we know that at this point our opponent's best defense is just hand disruption. I can reload some resources with the Super Rod here. I'm basically just thinking about how many cards I can thin out of the hand at this stage to play around hand disruption, as I am just going to pass into my opponent. I can give them an easy single prize here. It doesn't change how many turns it will take them to win, so it feels a little bit bad. I'm, again, vulnerable to hand disruption here, but we weren't able to sculpt anything. The opponent is going to Sparkle, so we get to hold the hand again now, which means it should be a pretty routine Roaring Moon response play here, as the opponent is going to Max Miracle through us. Yeah, we're looking pretty close to a Moon play. The plan now is going to be using Roaring Moon and also try and get Moltres into the mix, right? It self-accelerates, so that's going to be huge. We hit 3 kind of big cards, honestly. The Gate is essential, the Darkness Energy is essential, and the Switch Cart versus the Nest Ball was a bit questionable, honestly. But I am getting to the bottom of the deck. I also just wanted to check with Town Store that I could make the Gate play happen. Really, we want to get this Moltres from our top 5 here. And we do actually hit it with our first selecting, so I get to hold a Switch Cart as well. And I do get to get a free Dire Flame Wings in here, which is pretty nice. We can Greninja towards the bottom of the deck, then Rod Gate again, and just have both of these chaps kind of powered up. It's a weird one, because I am foregoing a turn attachment this way. So I do lose a little bit of value here. We eventually do put the Darkness Energy back into the deck. But we're still putting the Moltres in really good shape to close the game. I can also Pal Pad a couple Colress back in, so we're really well safeguarded around hand disruption at this stage. And I can just Calamity Storms, get rid of the Town Store. So I'm also forcing some damage mods here from our opponents, which doesn't sound like it's too much effort for a Mew, but they currently have 2 board spaces open, so maybe it's tricky for them to draw a bunch. Straight away, they're going to prove me wrong with benching Genesect, tableting. And let's see if they can. They basically have to Iono us here, right? We have a Moltres in the back that's a Darkness Energy away from winning. A Roaring Moon that they have to respond on. Let's see how they're going to try and make this happen. We see that the Judge is in the discard pile, but the Iono isn't, or the Roxanne isn't. I see a Boss's Orders onto Greninja, so maybe they're doing a stalling play here. Town Store doesn't change anything. Box of Disaster's fine. Yeah, it looks like the hand was just clogged up. They couldn't get a disruption supporters. They are just going to try and force us to have the boss, but we do have the boss. And the Moon Moltres sort of late game play, that combination is just so devastating against a Mew player. So pretty nice win in that regard, even though we had a bit of a dodgy mid game. We're getting into our next game now. And in this occasion, I did actually choose to go second. Again, I'm still deciding which is best, honestly. Looks like we're up against Miraidon. The hand is not that great, but at least we have some draws towards Colress here. Get a free mulligan as well. And yeah, Miraidon definitely a scary one. I think it's good to be going second into Miraidon so they don't get the chance to squawk, and maybe their deck clunks out at some point. We'll see how it goes. It does give them more time to turn attach to one of their Pokemon, but we don't see an Iron Hands coming down just yet, which is encouraging. We're actually going to attach Retreat to get a Fleet-footed card in, so maybe that's an indication of what their hand's looking like. As they pass to us, we have more Comfey. We're just lacking switching outs right now, so I should probably select first here, knowing that I might just have to attach Retreat into Comfey. We do get a switch card, so I can continue on this Lost Zone quest. Rope versus Sealstone. I haven't been able to check the deck yet, so I don't know if Moltres is prized or not. But I think the Sealstone's the stronger pick here. It opens up all my Vips and Nest Ball from this concealed cards. It whiffs, but we do hit energy to retreat into one more flower selecting. Oh man, and somehow we miss all of our switching cards and our Colress. Going second feels really bad when you miss all of those pieces. So let's hand things over to our opponents. The only good news is they haven't got any energy developed on the board just yet, so they have a lot of work cut out for them. We do finally see Iron Hands. That was to be expected, honestly. We see Ultra Ball for Mew EX. Beach Court. This is looking pretty dangerous now. Tandem Unit as well. Don't know really what else they need to get onto this board. Maybe just thinning Pokemon for better ratios with potential Jennies. I see a turn attachment. Oh, and the Peony. Okay, so they're playing a pretty aggressive list. Should have really known that from the beach courts. They just go for one generator, so it has to hit. Oh, and it does. It hits the double. They can Flaffy now to get the last energy. So they have the dream scenario of a Bravery Charmed Iron Hands coming in. They can also restart for a few more cards here. We should have a decent chance of a Minior response here. We have some free selectings. We have Greninja. We have Forest Stone again. So any Nest Ball, any Colress should get us in good stead. Town Store's really good, actually. That's going to help us get the goggles. The Supereffective Glasses, I should say, not the goggles. And we do finally hit a Colress. My goodness. Oh, man, but no Ball Search. Still no Ball Search. So how am I going to go about this? I can still Greninja draw. It's getting a bit panicky now. Yeah, that doesn't help either. How have we just missed out on Nest Ball, of all things? I can still... Okay, gonna go for the Escape Rope. I could have still just gone Flower Selecting for one last chance of Nest Ball. Because obviously Minior brings itself into the active, but looks like I wanted to just go for the proactive Rope here. I think that means I'm locking myself in for, yeah, powering up Iron Hands just to be the biggest, chunkiest Pokemon I possibly can build here. The main hope being that I can tank a hit and they don't have boss. This is really poor though. We have a very obvious response KO on Iron Hands in the deck, but it's just not come together because we've been pretty unfortunate, honestly. Missing Chorus turn 1 and every VIP and Nest, and then on turn 2 still missing every VIP and Nest is pretty wild, gonna be honest with you. Normally the hardest piece of the combo is finding the Vacuum, and we've had that for a long time. Let's see if the opponent can boss here, though. If they can boss Greninja or Comfey, I'm feeling pretty bad about my situation. The opponent's united out a Raichu rather than a Zapdos, which is good for us, because it means that there's a decent shot that we can tank here, unless they come in with Raichu, obviously. Oh yeah, so they can't even power up Raichu. They have no way to discard Lightning from hand to Dynamotor, so we get away with that one. Whew, just getting a tanking hit with the Iron Hands actually paid off. I can't really believe that, but here we are. We finally hit Moltres, which was the last, well, you know, can be turned into the last piece of the puzzle because of this Forest Seal Stone. So things really have not gone our way this game, but at least we were able to tank. I'm going to thin a Nest Ball just to get the Minior, and then we can go Meteoring in. I can Glasses up now as well. We don't really have an easy Vacuum here. I'm actually going to get rid of a Gate, which is a bit sketch. Possibly could have been a Rod there as well. But here we go. We finally get a response with this Minior. It would have been ideal if it was last turn, because now our opponent has got one extra attacking on this Iron Hand, so they probably can KO it at some point, and I have another Moltres on the board, so really just trying to dodge boss's orders over the next 2 turns. They have already played 1, I believe, but that's about it so far. I see Town Store for Forest Seal Stone. That could grant them, obviously, access to any support they'd want. The ideal player is probably knocking out Iron Hands, you would expect. And if they do that, it's going to be pretty murky for us to win this game, honestly. They're powering up a fresh Raikou as well, and they're just going to Fleet Foot. Definitely the right thing to power up a fresh Raikou, otherwise I could just swing in with a Cram onto their damaged guy. And there is the boss's orders onto Iron Hands. Yeah, things are looking pretty difficult from this stage. I think the only plan I can come up with is Cram hit the active and hope they don't have access to another Bravery Charm on this Raikou V, so I can set it up for a Greninja 4-prize turn, and I still have to dodge boss. But they did just have to Forest Seal Stone for boss, so unless they took it off prizes or top deck, it might pay off for us, honestly. I feel like that's probably the best thing I can go for here. I'm going to Colress. We do find the Cram. So I think it's just Cram hit for the 110. Hope we dodge Switch Cart and dodge Bravery Charm. It's super low odds here, I'm not going to lie, but for how rough of a time we've had of things, to still be in this game is still something. The only other issue here for the Greninja itself is that I'd have to unlock the water energy that's currently on Minior, but I can do that with like Raihan anyway. I can Raihan retreat the Minior, and then I could Rod Gate attach to Greninja, so I can unlock the water energy if I need to. And they Town Store for Forest, so that's step one. They didn't have Bravery Charm. Only one gone, but maybe because they're just that aggro of a build, they only play one copy. Maybe, or maybe it's in the prizes. And we see the Arven, so I'm surviving. They didn't Arven for Switch Cart either. Are we actually getting over the line here? Ain't no way. Are we... Oh, man, after such a dire position, actually getting back into this game is just crazy, honestly. Or they're doing great BM, and I'm going to feel sad in a minute. We see some Jennies come down. The Raichu can knock out anything in the planet at this stage. There's Miraidon getting some energy. And they actually rope, so I can even clog, or sort of declog the water this way. Now I can just Raihan for game, actually. Pretty comfortably. I don't need to do anything. Just going to check again with the Town Store that the last gate is in the deck. It certainly is. So we can go Raihan, grab gate, Rod, gate, and Switch Cart away to actually winning here. Typically the matchup is easier, I want to say. I think the only times it sort of spirals out of control is if the Iron Hands is paired with like Judge Path. That's when it's still really, really scary because we need to have a big combo. But we were just very unfortunate to have not insta-responded an Iron Hands without hand disruption at all there, just because we missed on all of our search options early game, which is pretty crazy, to be fair. And missed on Colress, at least on one of the turns, so... cool to see that we could get a response on Miraidon. It was, again, low percentages there, but we did squeeze over the line. We're getting into another game. We're up against a Charizard deck. We do have Tropius Grass Energy as one of our tech inclusions in the deck. We also have Roaring Moon, which is going to be sort of front and center of an attacker here. We're going to have to keep it up against the Darkness Energy, but we can pass things over to them now. I'm seeing Arven straight away. Oh, they're TM Evo. Okay. So probably going to be Barrel, you would expect. Something we don't see so much anymore. It has made a couple top 8 placements, to be fair. It's not all in on Pidgeot, but... Here we go. We see the Charmander Bidoof. Do they have anything else? Or are they just going to be jumping into the deck with this attack here? Yeah, we are going to see the Evo. Oh, interesting. They just go for Charmeleon. Maybe they have the barrel in hand because they just don't want... They want to, like, attach it... Oh, sorry, evolve to declog. Maybe that's the strat here. I do have one glasses in hand, so I can get rid of one of my glasses. It's a bit ugly, but I'm going to hold the Rod over it because Rodding Moon is still huge here. I'm going to take another Colress. I can start dancing these selectings. I think the plan is to just go for a Cram hit here for tempo. You can see we have Tropius available. The grass is already in hand, so that's looking pretty solid. Going to hold the Darkness Energy in hand as well if I need to Roaring Moon or prefer that option. I'm just going to swing into the Charmander and initiate the prize race. Things have gone very smooth actually this game. Apart from getting rid of one of our super effective glasses, everything has been pretty smooth in terms of what we've been able to get rid of. We do see that Bibarel from hand and Ultra Ball as expected. They can also rod back in some resources before an Arven, then they can top back up with Bibarel. Oh, they even get Nest Ball Forest, so things are going pretty well for them. We get to hold the hand, though. No hand disruption this turn is still great news for us. Gonna see the the Infernal Rain, then the top up with Bibarel here. But looks like they're just going to be taking a single prize, and I'm holding on to Nest Ball, Glasses, Gate, Grass. So I can insta-respond with Tropius with the cheeky glasses. Oh, interesting. We see a Jirachi come down. They haven't put down a Charmander here. I'm going to Lost City and get rid of the Cram for good, which is a bit of a concern, but I can live with that. Yeah, we can Nest Ball out the Tropius. It's definitely happening, right? There's no way we're not going to rally back in this spot. We can get the energy to retreat Tropius. We can get the glasses on. We can turn attach. We can then, with the energy thinned out the deck, Colress. We have more gates for Roaring Moon next turn. We are going to hold on to A Dark to keep 3 in the mix total. And then we're going to just respond on the Charizard. Looking pretty good here. Entei's a bit of an awkward Pokemon. It has 230 hit points, which kind of is in that sort of Roaring Moon range, unfortunately. But possibly I can go for a 1-prize KO with Rope next turn. And look to use Roaring Moon on a future turn, as we do see the Rondo. What's our best line here? Is Greninja our best line? Just take out Manaphy and Greninja the active for a chunk. Well, Greninja's going to be the first thing we think about. We can get that back into the mix. I'm going to toss away Darkness Energy and draw some more cards. Yeah, it is going to be the Roaring Moon. I don't mind just mooning through the Entei, honestly. Just because they have no board after this Entei goes down, right? They could... Best case scenario, they just do a 30 damage Charmander poke, but then I have a reasonable response on that, with most likely just Greninja at that stage. So should be okay here. We're going to Frenzied Gouge. So yeah, their literal best case scenarios have like Churro or Switch Card plus a 30 damage Charmander, but they just don't, so they just concede on the spot there, which is pretty cool. Let's get into another one. We start with the Minior, but at least we have some Ball Search. And it's another Mew. This is, again, we've seen that... Oh, okay. Well, with our opening search, we at least have Heavy Ball in the deck, but I've prized Cram and Hands and Moltres and Tropius. So, over half our prizes are pokes right now. Can toss away a Lightning Energy to keep our Greninja around for more draw power. And we are going to toss away VIP... Mostly because I have no more Pokemon in the deck. I can Forest now. Honestly, I think Darkness Energy is the best card I could have, because I could draw 2 more with Greninja, and I could get a free Dire Flame Wings in. It's a sad state of affairs that we go for this basic energy, but that is what I Forest Hill Stone for. And it means I can get a Dire Flame Wings in. Unfortunate to not draw into like an energy after the fact for concealed cards to get turn attachment on Moltres. But that's what we're dealing with. We see, oh, interesting, Technical Devo in a Fusion Energy build of Mew. As we see more Vips coming down from them. Power Tablet just to thin some more cards. Let's see, do they have the Sparkle? No, they don't, so they can't initiate the prize race with Block Slider here. They just refresh the hand. Do they have a path? No, just a pass, so... Oh, interesting. We've found the Heavy Ball early, which is nice. I'm able to conceal cards away at Darkness Energy, so it should be a pretty routine means of us getting in with Moltres this turn. I'm going to proactively grab the Moon, just so that now, if I am hand disrupted, I have Nest Ball as outs for the Roaring Moon. We can say goodbye to Grass Energy, it's not the matchup for it. We can Switch Cart, get one more selecting in, knowing that I can turn attach Jet Energy. Rope versus Rope is a shame. But I think the only other thing on my mind now is, should I play this Pal Pad? Just because we know that Judge and Iono are still their best defenses. I'm going to play the pad just for 1 here. Knowing that I'm going down to 4 prize cards pretty early in the game. Just want to have extra access to Colress. And let's see how they respond. Ideally the Moltres isn't lost zoned, but it certainly could be. It's much better to lost zone the Moltres if you're the Mew player than the Roaring Moon, actually, because the Moltres gets freebies, right? Whereas the Roaring Moon is all self-powered up with, like, gates and stuff. You got to do it manually. The opponent's going to keep thinning their hand size here with vacuums themselves. Vacuuming loads of stuff, but they certainly have to go for this Moltres. It looks like they're just digging for DT. They eventually find it. Oh, and they have Lost City, actually. So they can deal with the Moltres for good, which is definitely the right move. But based on this hand, we should definitely be able to sculpt a Revenge KO with Roaring Moon here. Shouldn't be a problem at all. We're going to get that into the mix straight away. We still had Water and Dark in the deck. So I can do a Raihan play here pretty comfortably. I'm going to do the same thing with Cram, because Cram Boss could be our endgame situation into Ice Cube. We're going to just start cycling a bit more now with our Comfeys. I think Raihan for guaranteed energy attach retreat is pretty reasonable here. We're in a weird position where I want to thin bad cards out of my deck, but I can't really play anything, honestly. And I also want to play around Iono, because we've seen they have Iono rather than Roxanne. So that's actually why I take VIP Pass here, because honestly, I just know that I'm getting hand disrupted anyway. So if it's going to be Iono, I'd rather keep the other cards in the bottom of the deck. As we turn attach, I'm going to get a Rod in straight away, just because there's still the chance that I can rebuild Roaring Moon with our last gate, obviously. And at the same time, it allows me to get this energy onto Comfey as a pivot. Going down to one prize card now, knowing that Cram Boss can be game for us, or if the Roaring Moon goes down, I can just represent a single prize board state for a turn, attempt to just select a bunch and pass, and then select a bunch again, and hope at that stage I have something going for me. We finally see Forest Hill Stones from the opponents. They can first reload with some Genesect, and they do eventually Iono us to one card. We see Judge get pitched here. They're going to keep topping up with Genesect. We do see a path, so they've done everything they can to disrupt us. They're also going to Forest Hill Stone for the tablet that was required to finish off the Roaring Moon. And let's start working towards... So the things we want to watch are, like, Rod, Gate, Roaring Moon. We've just hit Colress, which is massive. But also have the option of Cram Boss still available. Just going to try and map some resources here. Looks like I'm giving up on Gate at this point. So we're just going to draw as absolute many cards as possible with selectings here. Gonna rope. I'm just gonna go into the other Mew. That's our last gate, so I have to keep that one. So I don't remove the option to Roaring Moon. We've done a pretty good job of rebuilding here. I'm gonna get attachment onto Comfey here, knowing that I need Rod to recycle my options anyway next turn if I am going to use Roaring Moon. If I don't use Roaring Moon, I'm okay either way. They do have the last fusion energy, so they could block slide the Comfey with the Dark on the bench. They're also going to judge. They've judged us into a pretty good hand, though, because I have Nest Ball Boss, which was something I was looking for, to be honest with you. So we actually have game. Weirdly, they didn't block slide the Comfey on the bench, but I had energy anyway to close. It may look quite fortunate that we got judged into like such a solid hand, but they had already got rid of 2 Ionos and Pal Pad, so I knew I wasn't getting Iono'd again. It was whether they played Roxanne or not, I think was the only like stickler there, so was able to get over the line in that game, as we're going to end on a Tina matchup. This is a weird one, actually. Our Pokemon don't line up that well into Giratina. Roaring Moon having to gouge itself into V-Stars opens up Sableye, plays for them to take multi-prize turns back into us, which is awkward, so the timing can get a little rough, honestly. As we see, they're going to get some Pokemon developed and end on a path themselves. Oh, we've prized a ton of Pokemon again, actually. We've prized Cram, we've prized Moltres, which makes our Forest Hill Stone a lot worse in hand. Our guaranteed Chorus is now not online. So that's pretty rough. Minior's not great in the matchup. It's pretty much only here for 2 matchups, right? Miraidon and Snorlax. So we're going to dance some Comfey instead. Still looking for that Chorus, which we don't get. It's a little bit rough, so we're going to have to pass things over here. Let's see what the opponent has. They can start flower selecting themselves. And looks like they're just going to Abyss Seek to get to 3 cards in the Lost Zone. Alright. More vacuums aren't great. Oh, Colress versus Colress is annoying, but at least we're getting into the mix now. We hit Heavy Ball, which we absolutely have to take. I have to get rid of a Rod here just so I can move my Comfey by the looks of things. I could have kept... Maybe keeping Rod was better than Rope here. Actually, it depends, because Hisuian Heavy Ball can get me Moltres, and Molt can get me towards a Gateplay of Iron Hands, but I don't think it's going to line up. Yeah, it looks like I might just have to attach Retreat here. Man, maybe holding the Rod was better, though. If I was locking into an attach Retreat anyway, that's kind of close. It's a shame that Moltres and Cram were both in the prizes, because this Forest of Stone is going to be locked for a while, but... Either way, the opponent's going to jet their Tina that I've just poked out of the active, and they're going to respond on our Cram with a Cram. It should be pretty easy for us to get hands here. Actually, not easy, because we have no gates available in this Forest of Stone is a lie right now. Doesn't actually do anything. So yeah, where's my best turn coming from? Oh, maybe this Rod is where it comes from, just reloading the Cram. That's my second Rod down, though, because one is in the Lost Zone. Gonna rope into Greninja and keep cycling. Jet Energy versus Nest Ball is also strange. Nest Ball gives me the way back into the Cram. And I can rope again, so I can hit maybe the other Tina or just another single prizer. I can obviously pay Retreat out this last Comfey. We have to keep this last Rod 100%. Yeah, it looks like we're just going to reload the Cram. It's insane that we haven't hit any gates. Like, we had so many better plays this turn. So many better plays. My goodness. The fact that we have 20 cards left in our deck and we haven't seen a gate is just nutty. Oh, there's one from prizes. The fact that I couldn't Iron Hands there. The fact that I couldn't Greninja there just to take out the Comfey and damage this Tina a little bit more. Man, we had so many better plays open to us if I just found a gate. But just not happening. The opponent's geared into Iono as well. Which I really don't want to see. I'd much rather than Colressing. No, we're just going to lose everything here. That's really yucky, actually. Oh, and then they rodded the Cram back in. Iono back into it so they can actually spit innocently here. And, damn, it's really not that likely that I get to respond here. I have one Rod left in the deck. And I can't really spend it on Cram again, because I need it to all be energy at this stage. I've got rid of a few into the Lost Zone as well. We are really tight on resources, just because we've been whiffing. And we've lost... Like, it's been so many good card versus good card. You have these Lost Zone games sometimes where it's just good versus good. I'm going to take the Forest of Stone out of the deck, just because it will become useful, whereas the glasses I can always throw away in the matchup, right? We finally have a decent selecting, getting rid of VIP Pass. But this is looking like a slow turn for us, honestly. Yeah, far from ideal. We've just really got all of our gates lodged in the middle of the deck right now. So I'm just going to have to accept an Iron Hands attached pass here. Really not ideal for where we want to be. Opponent's going to Chorus. Where are they at? They're at 7 now, so they have gates online finally. Going to see some concealed cards. I'm a little bit worried of them using Greninja on double Comfey here. That would be the worst case scenario. I can respond on it with Iron Hands, but that's only in theory, because our hand actually sucks. We see a Path, which is going to make our hand even worse. So a bit of work to do from our selectings here. Raihan's a pretty good draw. Can I see selecting? That gets a Switch Cart. I have Water Energy. So I could go Greninja swing, maybe? Greninja KO, Comfey, damage, Tina. Yeah, that's what we're going for here. Oh, it's looking pretty murky, though. We're just so far behind. Things just have not aligned properly for us this game at all. And again, like I said, we have no, like, standout great choices. It's insane that they've got one Comfey all game as well, by the way. Really crazy. They've made our Moonlight Shuriken look a lot worse. But here we are. The opponent's going to continue to Colress now. Yeah, we have 14 cards in our Lost Zone, and they're all like quite nice resources. I think the one Colress mistake was getting rid of a Rod rather than a Rope. I think that was one card that definitely stands out to me. That was a weird choice, and has made our entire game plan a lot harder. But it's mostly just been a big early game gate whiff when I could have been pouncing with a lot of attackers, and then they all got Iono to the bottom of the deck anyway. We are going to see a Lost Impact. We play no Hand Disruption in the deck at all. We have the Heavy Ball for Moltres, so I can finally use this Forest Stone. But one card doesn't do it. We have to Colress. We have to find... Well, we do find Rod Gate. And just because we have no more rods, I can throw away another gate here. And just go all in with this Iron Hands. Essentially, at this point I'm saying I just really hope the opponent can't find V-Star, right, to finish us off. They should be able to, though, because we really can't do much. We can at least shove the glasses on, and be very much for 3 prizes, and say that we're like in rope range to win. But they should have a pretty easy path to KO here. I think the last thing they need might be just like a Rod, because there's 3 Psychic in the discard pile, I believe. Yeah, there's 3 Psychic in the bin, but they've already played a Rod, so... sorry, they've only played 1 Rod, so it should be easy enough. They're going to get rid of Mirage Gate, which spells bad news. Yep, they have the combinations to beat us there. It's a weird one. Like I said, Tina's a tough matchup anyway for us, but we really low rolled. So I think that is something to still juggle. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not necessarily the most proficient with this deck. I'm sure there could have been other decisions and min-maxing that I could have been doing better. Possibly even using those vacuums when I had that massive hand size just to get rid of some pieces so I couldn't draw back into them at different points. But I wasn't necessarily expecting an early Iono, so it's one of those strange things. But there we go. Let me know what you think about the glasses build. We got to see some of them in action. We saw Tropius do some work. We saw Minior do it into an Iron Hands, although it took a little while. I do think there's some clunk in here, but also you can sculpt some pretty cool prize maps. So I'll hear your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.